Hello and welcome to the last series of lectures on Popper. I plan to divide these lectures into two parts. I will be taking basically a small revision of what Popper has discussed in the philosophy of science, and we will also talk about certain kind of criticisms which can be labeled against him. Though we will be taking these criticisms and these discussions a lot when we will be discussing Kuhn and other philosophers at a later stage of our course. But still, to just give you a very brief idea, we will have some discussion on the criticisms. So let us start with what Popper has basically discussed. We know the problem of demarcation. That means that how science and pseudoscience need to be distinguished, right? So we know that there is this understanding of that this is science and this is what we call as non-science or pseudoscience as Popper's understanding. Then we know that how science is demarcated from non-science because of the understanding of falsification, that in principle if a theory is falsifiable then definitely it is going to be science. If it is not in theory falsifiable then it is a pseudoscience or a non-science. So that understanding is also there in Popper. Then we also know that confirmation is a myth for Popper, and he uses the terminology which I told you as corroboration. So this is what he says, that you after several observations you never go on to confirm a theory, you only corroborate a theory. So this understanding is something also which we have discussed in few lectures as well as in the last class. So this is also we have discussed. And lastly, we have also talked about the risk-taking feature of a good scientific behavior, right? That a good scientific behavior will be a risk-taking behavior. That means you do not go for makeshift arrangements, rather than you try to bring upon something which is an invention, something which is new, something which is out of box, something which has a lot of risk. It can fail at any point of time, but then sciences are like that. So these all understandings we have discussed. But before we discuss about these problems and certain thing, there is something which Newton Smith has also pointed out, that if you see Darwin's theory. Now Darwin's theory was initially considered by Popper as a non-scientific or a pseudoscientific theory, but later on he has retracted from that point of view, and he said that no, scientific theories are Darwin's theory is a scientific theory. Now there is something which is very similar by nature if you find or if you study the Darwin's theory as well. Now Darwin's theory usually talks about this variation and natural selection, right? Any evolutionary biological theory, if you say take even recent studies, you will find that they consider that there are some variations which takes place in our bodies or in say any species or so on, and whatever is helpful as for reproduction, for reassertion of that species in this say climate or behavior environment and so on, they are the things which are retained and the rest of the things go off, right? So that understanding of say species is a very keystone of natural selection, and variations are very keystone say understandings of Darwin's theory or any evolutionary theory. And the same if you see is that of conjecture and refutation. If you see the conjecture and refutation, the understanding of conjecture and refutation, I will put it here somewhere because it is also something which is a trademark Popperian theory, is exactly on that platform, right? So and this similarity is something which has been found by Newton Smith, that the Darwin's theory of say variation and natural selection is something which is akin to the understanding of conjecture and refutation over here. So this thing may have not initially strike to Popper, and later on he definitely retracted and he said that yes, Darwin's theory is a scientific theory. Now Popper has also talked about a few things more where people can either criticize him or also certain things which like regarding the risk taking factor. Now as per the people who have criticized Popper. It is also said that this risk-taking behavior or something takes you away from the understanding of what is science and rather talks about what is a good scientific behavior, right? And this thing has Popper has been criticized on this issue, that somehow if you are talking or if you are speaking from a risk-taking behavior, or how I have discussed in the last lecture as well, that how people should work as a group or as an individual, as a scientific community. If there is a problem in our theory, so we need to find the problem rather than we need to hide it and somebody else is exposing it. Somebody else or some other group should not be worried about our theory. They should conduct their own experiments and so on. So this is more about the behavior, the scientific behavior. So Popper has talked about scientific behavior more than what is science basically. So this thing has come. In fact, Popper has also talked about one thing more regarding Marxism as well as, say, Freudian theories. So what he says that there can be a scientific as well as an unscientific interpretation of these theories as well. The scientific interpretations will have more understanding of that with certain kind of assumptions or with certain kind of observations. It can be proved wrong, or it can be, say, falsified, or it is testable definitely, and it can be falsified as well. it is fallible, right? So this understanding is there, that a theory can have a scientific version as well as an unscientific version. And Popper says that both Marx and Freudian, or say Marxian and Freudian theories, have this element. So this was also something which was new, I guess so, and was also a matter of criticism for Popper, that how a theory can be, like having both the scientific aspect or the scientific interpretation as well as the non-scientific or unscientific interpretation as well. But in any ways, this risk-taking is a very, very enduring factor in Popper's understanding, because that has given science what it has become. Because look, we have started this endeavor of understanding science with verification, with some kind of testing, with some kind of confirmations, with empirical observations and so on. But we have never reached an understanding of falsifiability. Even if we have reached the understanding of falsifiability and we understand the difference between confirmation and corroboration, which I will be taking in a few moments, but this understanding of taking risk is a very enduring and a very, very genuine and I will say very a big contribution of Popper to the theory of sciences, because that has actually given an understanding that how a good scientific behavior also produce good sciences, like theories which will be more enduring by nature and will be an important factor for, say, the futuristic understanding. But right now I will take off these two things and discuss about one important factor, and that is how to differentiate between confirmation and corroboration. So let us discuss this a little bit. Now we all know, as and this is also an example which has been given by Newton Smith. You will find it in the book as well. But most of us do not understand the difference between transcript and say letter of recommendation. Now, why it is not something which is very clear to us? Because usually in our countries there is no understanding of letter of recommendation, but if you go to the West, and now since we are in an engineering and technical university, you will find a lot of students are bothered about the letter of recommendation, or else they were only interested about transcripts, right? So there is a big difference between transcript and letter of recommendation, and this is something which Popper also brings, or at least Newton Smith brings this point, and this is how you can differentiate between confirmation and corroboration, because it seems more or less the same word, right? Because somebody has used the word confirmation, Popper is using the word corroboration, so whether they are different or whether they are the same. Now, if you understand the difference, what is a transcript? Let us try to understand that. What is a transcript? A transcript is an academic document which is provided to you precisely because of your performance as it was in the educational institution, right? Like you have taken a course, or you have gone through a course, and in that whatever was your performance is something which is there in the transcript. It's like a mark sheet. It's like anything which is academic by nature, which tells somebody that was your score, this was your academic performance. However, there is also a need of letter of recommendation, and I do not know how many of you know, and therefore I am explaining this. Like, suppose if you are planning to pursue higher education and you want to go out from this country to some other countries, especially in the West, or even if you are going from this country to a prestigious institution in this country only, so you are going from this university to another prestigious institution. So over there, they do not only accept transcript, but they also say that you need to have letter of recommendation. Now, what that letter of recommendation does and how it is different. Like if I am your say course instructor, and you have completed a course under me, and since in that transcript also, like suppose you got a A+ grade or an A grade or something like that, so it clearly portrays that you are a very good student. So then why a letter of recommendation is needed from the same faculty member here? Letter of recommendation is basically providing the details of how you are and how you are expected to be. This is how you were, right? This is how you are and how you are expected to be from my point of view, from a instructor's point of view, or from an evaluator's point of view, right? And this is going to make a great and big change and difference in the attitude, in the perception of the educational institution which is planning to take you, right? Because how you are or how you were is something which has been confirmed by your grades, right? So you were a good student, you scored very good marks, is something which is here. Now here, whether you have the research abilities, whether you will be an asset to an educational institution, whether you have the perseverance, whether you were attentive, whether you are a disciplined student, whether you are regular with your classworks and assignments, and so on. So there can be a lot of things and a lot of issues on which I may need to evaluate you, right? So given that, academic index is not everything, right? It has to be a letter of recommendation where I will put it out, that what exactly this person is and how he or she is planning to behave, or how he or she is expected to behave. So this understanding is a requirement. So letter of recommendation is also required. So according to Popper, these transcripts are basically corroborations, right? So you do not go on to confirm something. You just say that this theory or this student has behaved it in this way, okay? But if there is a letter of recommendation, then how he is going to behave or she is going to behave is something which is also pledged over here, right? And that will be a confirmation. So according to Popper, you can only corroborate because somebody has performed, so you can always say that, okay, this person has performed. But if you are saying that this person is going to perform forever, so it will be a letter of recommendation, which in sciences is not the case. This is how Popper has tried to differentiate between the understanding of confirmation and corroboration. So in simple words, if you see, this is like that transcript is telling us the grades and it is telling your past. On the other hand, letter of recommendation is not telling your grades or is not evaluating on anything other than it is pledging that you will perform forever, right? Or something like that. So if you understand, this transcript is basically corroboration, okay, and this letter of recommendation is basically a confirmation. Now in sciences, as we have seen, that there are a lot of theories which has been falsified, or there are theories which are found to be false by some kind of observations. So this is something which is not possible in Popper's case, and this is possible in Popper's case. So what he says is that if a theory has survived, or if a theory has performed, it is yet to be falsified, and therefore this has only corroborated. On the other hand, if you are saying that something is a confirmation, then it will stay forever, and that is not the case with Popper. So this lecture was basically about a few topics which we took right now. So think about these topics more, and you will find a lot of other issues in Popper as well, and we will meet in the next lecture with few more topics related to Popper. Thank you.